And I was touched to learn that Jack made a personal sacrifice to attend this conference. And that was for the first time in his life, he purchased a dress shirt. Yes. No, is that actually true?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I shouldn't have asked that. It's a noble myth about the manliness of Jack Donovan. Yeah. He usually wears bear skins, or his other clothings are made of seals or something.
My enemies.
Yes. But anyway, Jack Donovan is a Portland-based author and commentator. He's an advocate for the resurgence of tribalism, honor, and manly virtue. You probably know him from his contributions to Alternative Right, The Spearhead, Countercurrents, and other toxic publications. Jack has also appeared on television and radio to discuss the topic of manhood. And I'm very happy to introduce Jack Donovan.
There may be a collapse. It could happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 10 years. Vengeful gods could hurl boulders from the sky, cleansing the earth with fire and flood. There could be blood in the streets, a gnashing of teeth, a plague of locusts or killer bees, a Chinese flu, the zombie apocalypse. Your debit cards might run empty, and your smartphones might get real dumb. We may be forced to band together in primal gangs and fight for survival. We may be forced by circumstances beyond our control to rediscover lifeways more familiar to our species, to our ancestral brains, than this endless, banal sprawl of corporate parks and shopping malls. Or you may just get that one day as a lion to leave this world as you entered it, kicking and screaming and covered in someone else's blood. It does have a certain appeal. But while any or all of that could happen, and it could happen tomorrow, it is also possible that this broken, corrupt system could limp along somehow for a very long time. Yes, it should fail catastrophically. It deserves to fail. But no matter how much the world needs a reckoning or a reset button, it is a lot easier for people at every level of society on a day-to-day basis to keep patching it together and doing the best they can until they run out of duct tape. So, until that day comes, until everyone runs out of duct tape, as we've heard today, I think everyone here is in agreement, but even more importantly, I think our leaders are even in agreement that America is going to continue to decline as a power in the world, as an economic force. Its growth will never happen again. And for most people, that will mean a progressive ratcheting down of the quality of life and a lowering of expectations. What we won't see is some great awakening or a dramatic change in leadership or direction. The people who run America aren't going to come to their senses, and I think everyone here has agreed to that, and that pleases me a lot. As America declines and becomes a failed or failing state or a hollow state, the corporations and businessmen and bureaucrats who run it will continue to promote globalism, feminism, and the marketplace melting pot. They will continue to condemn anything that could be considered racism or tribalism, especially among whites, until they are safely in the minority. They will continue to condemn male sexism, patriarchy, and continue to promote any kind of go-girl, female sexism that emasculates or devalues men. They will continue to promote dependence on the state for security, for income, for health care, for life itself. And no matter how many conflicts they escalate, or how many people they kill or imprison, or how militarized their police state thugs become, they will officially condemn violence. They will continue to do all this because it makes perfect sense for them. If you were the rulers and the toadies of a nation in decline, whose people were bound to lose wealth and status, if you were the rulers and toadies of a nation in decline, and you wanted to protect your own interests, if you wanted to keep your heads, why would you not want to keep those people separate, emasculated, weak, dependent, faithless, fearful, and nonviolent? Figureheads may come and go, but I see absolutely no reason why the message will change. Many of you here may see yourselves as civilized men, sane men, in an increasingly insane, vulgar, and barbaric world. But you're wrong. You are the new barbarians. The official message will continue to be that if you believe that all men are not created equal, if you believe that free men should have access to firearms, if you believe that government cannot be trusted to regulate every aspect of your life, if you believe that race means blood and heritage, not just skin color, if you see that men and women are different and believe that they should have different roles, if you believe that men should act like men, if you believe that gay pride parades and gay marriage are ridiculous, if you believe in some old-time religion, if you believe any or all of those things, then according to the state and corporations and academia and the media, you are a stupid, psycho, hillbilly, neo-Nazi, woman-hating, wife-beating, homophobic, throwback, reactionary Neanderthal. You know it. Dance to it, make it a techno remix, because make no mistake, you are dangerous, traitorous, and quite possibly seditious. Well, I'm reminded of the words of, the eloquent words, of rapper Eminem. He rapped, "I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? In the paper, the news, every day I am. Radio won't even play my jam." It doesn't matter what you think you are. You are whatever they say you are. They control the message. No matter how reasonable you think your message is, the radio is not going to play your jam. No matter what you think you are to them, you are the barbarians. So own it, be it. And if you're going to be the barbarians, then start thinking like barbarians. What does that mean? Well, what does it mean to be a barbarian? Classically speaking, a barbarian is someone who is outside of the state, of the polis. A barbarian is not civilized according to the prevailing standards of the state. His ways are strange and tribal. The barbarian is an outsider, an alien. And a lot of people have been talking about this today, and I'm really excited about that, because I think what we need to think about is how must a man's thinking change when he is alienated from the state of his birth? How does a man go from being a man of the polis to an outsider, a barbarian in his own homeland? These are important questions, because if you see no viable political solution to the inane and inhuman trajectory of a progressive state, and I don't, then any meaningful change is going to require a lot more than collecting signatures or appealing to the public's good sense or electing the right candidate. What you need is to create a fundamental change in the way that men see themselves and their relationship with the state. Don't worry about changing the state, Change the men. Cut the cord and let them be born into a state of mind beyond the state. Show them how to become barbarians and break the sway of bourgeois American life. How do you do that? Well, that's something I hope to think and write about for the next few years. This is a conversation that everyone here has kind of been having, like, okay, we realize that America is the God that failed. America is not something that is for us anymore. But as you all know, when you go to talk to your peers about that, I do a lot of that because obviously I write about masculinity, and I have a lot of guys who, are from different walks of life or are not involved in these kind of movements, and they understand a lot of the problems, but they still have, what Richard talked about a little bit as this kind of religious devotion to American ideals. And what I am going to talk about today are maybe 4 ways that you can get at that, 4 main points that you can use to talk to them about that. Number 1, separate us from them. This conference is about the future of identity. Which identity? Who are we talking about? Who is we? When I talk to guys about what is happening in the world right now, they're quick to tell me what we should do about it. It's like they built America with their own hands and sat together with their buddies and figured out what the rules were going to be. But really, who is this we? You and the corporations that sell you garbage food, ruin your land, and outsource your jobs? You and the expert shills who turn your values into psychological problems? You and the paid-for media that mocks you? You and the Wall Street bankers who financialize the economy for their own short-term gain? You and the bureaucrats who want to disarm you and micromanage every part of your life? You and the politicians who open up the borders and fall all over themselves to pander to a new group of potential voters, instead of working for the interests of the actual citizens of the country they swore to represent? That we? That's us? Americans, especially, are used to speaking in terms of we, the people. But there are 300 million people in the United States, and that's a lot of we. Be more specific, more tribal. One of the best pieces of writing advice I ever got was this: never say people when you mean men. And along the same lines, my recommendations to you would be never say us when you mean them. Stop using democratic language. Stop pretending that we all have to be on the same team, because we really don't. Decide who you really care about. Figure out what you have in common. Define your boundaries. Decide who is in and who is out. The people who are in are us. Those people are we, and everyone else is they. Number 2, stop getting angry because things don't make sense. Almost nothing you read or hear in the news today seems to make any sense at all. People get so angry and so frustrated and so betrayed. It's like our leaders are crazy or stupid or both. It doesn't make sense to put women in the infantry. That's obviously crazy. It doesn't make sense to encourage kids to take out college loans that they'll never be able to pay back. It doesn't make sense to invite people in the country when you cannot afford to care for the people that you already have. It's nuts. It doesn't make sense to start wars and then say you're trying to win hearts and minds. War is not a good way to win hearts and minds. And worrying about hearts and minds is not a good way to win a war. It doesn't make sense that bankers and CEOs get golden parachutes and go on vacations, or get jobs in the administration after knowingly and intentionally destroying companies, lives, the environment, whole segments of the economy. But if you realize that they, the people who run the country, are doing things to benefit them and not you, then actually everything makes perfect sense. Consider the possibility that Americans' leaders don't really care if American soldiers live or die. Consider the possibility that American colleges and bankers don't care if you live the rest of your life in debt. they'd probably prefer it. Consider the possibility that American politicians care more about keeping their jobs in the short term and looking good in the media than they do about what happens to the people of their own countries in the long term. Consider the possibility that you are not part of an us that they care about. And I promise that if you meditate upon this, things will start to make a lot more sense. If you let go of the idea that these people are supposed to care about you or the country, and you allow yourself to see them as gangs and individuals working to further their own interests, you can relax and appreciate their crafty strategy. Let go of foolish expectations about what these people should be doing. Step back and see them for what they are. Don't be mad. Don't be outraged. Be wise. As Nietzsche recommended, be carefree, mocking, and violent. Number 3, and people have mentioned this as well today, de-universalize morality. Men who were raised with American, egalitarian, late Western values want to be good men. They want to be fair and just, and they want to be just to everyone. This can be absolutely paralyzing. It really creates an internal conflict for men, especially men who are especially athletic or have some kind of military or police background. They grew up and they were taught to believe in good sportsmanship and equal justice. And they want to do the right thing, no matter what happens to them. They want to be Batman. However, it is also in the nature of these men, even more than other men, to think vertically, hierarchically, tribally, to think in terms of us and them, to evaluate each other naturally by the masculine tactical virtues of strength, courage, mastery, and honor. But as soon as the football game or the superhero movie is over, progressive America goes back to hating and punishing those virtues. Progressive America goes back to hating and punishing men who act like men. These good guys, the guys who want to be heroes, get blamed and played and dumped on and treated like garbage. Look at all the homeless veterans. No matter what the progressive American message is, when it comes to men who act like men, especially white men, no one really cares if they get treated justly or fairly. Still, these good guys don't want to exclude, for instance, women from anything because it seems unfair. They have sisters and mothers, and they want everyone to have a chance. But women, as a group, don't care when men feel excluded. In fact, when men object to anything, groups of women are the first to call them whiners and losers. Good white guys, as a group, care about what happens to black people as a group, or at least they pretend to. They want to make sure that blacks are being treated fairly and equally, and they go out of their way to make sure that they aren't discriminating. Do black people, as a group, care what happens to white people as a group? Does a Mexican dad with 3 babies care whether or not some white kid from the burbs gets a summer landscaping job? Of course not. The problem with these late Western values is that they work best as intra-tribal values. They only work when everyone else is connected and interdependent. Fairness and justice and good sportsmanship promote harmony within a community. But at some point, you have to draw a line. You have to decide who is in that community and who is not. You cannot play fair with people who don't care if you get wiped off the map. You don't have to hate everyone who isn't part of your tribe, but it's foolish to keep caring about these people who don't care about you. These heroic types are the natural guardians of any tribe, but their heroic natures are wasted and abused when they're asked to protect everyone, even enemies and ingrates and people who despise them. If Western barbarians are going to hold on to any portion of their Western heritage and identity, they need to resolve these moral conflicts. They don't need to abandon morality, or moral virtue. And they shouldn't. But they need to pull in the shadow of their aegis and become, as in Plato's Republic, noble dogs who are gentle to their familiars and the opposite to strangers. Be morally accountable, but only to the tribe. If they're going to prosper and endure in a failing nation, the new barbarians must give up the tragic, misunderstood hero routine and realize that they are not Batman. And why would anyone want to be? Number 4, become independent, but interdependent. The United States of America and its parent corporations offer a wide range of products and services. All of them have strings attached, and the more you depend on them, the easier it is for them to control you. It's really not much of a threat to them, which is probably why we're allowed to do it. If you get online and like a naughty page on Facebook or vent your lonely, impotent rage, so long as the rest of your identity folds neatly into the bourgeois American lifestyle, so long as you still go to a make-work job at some big company and keep yourself busy for 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and you can purchase their wide range of products and services. And then, in the time that you have left, you go online and you get to be the Orthodox guy or the Roman guy or the Odinist guy and post cool pics of Vikings and centurions and crusaders. But that's not a real identity or a real tribe or a real community. By all means, do use the progressive state in whatever you can take from it, as long as there's still something to take. But if you truly want some kind of alternative lifestyle to what the state has to offer, if you want to maintain some kind of tribal identity that can endure Americans' decline and collapse, also known as the sudden absence of products and services, instead of community organizing on the internet in your underwear or retreating to a country compound with your wife and kids, bring some of those internet people close to you. Live near each other. Take over a neighborhood or an apartment complex. Start businesses and provide services that people really need. It's great to have writers and thinkers, but you also need mechanics and plumbers and seamstresses. So create businesses, do things, serve everyone, but be local to the people, be loyal to the people in your family and make them your own. This doesn't have to be a formal thing, and this is where it all breaks down immediately, is that someone decides they're going to have a European-only town, and then they issue a press release and tell everybody that that no one else can come in. Just quietly start building a community of like-minded men and women, somewhere, anywhere. Don't worry about creating some massive political movement or recruiting thousands or millions of people. Don't worry about changing the state. Barbarians don't worry about changing the state. That's for men of the state who believe in and belong to the state. Shoot for 150 people. A small, close-knit community of people working together to become less dependent on the state and more dependent on each other. Recent immigrants, many of whom are literally not of the state, can serve as examples. It wasn't long ago that the Irish and the Italians lived in insular communities. Think of Russian parts of town. Look at places like Chinatown in San Francisco. I love this when I go to San Francisco. Every few blocks, you see these little buildings marked like something, something, something in Chinese, and then Benevolent Association. I mean, that sounds nice, right? It could be a front for triad gangs, or it could be there to help Chinese school children. We don't know. But what I am sure is that it's there for Chinese people. There are also doctors' offices and law offices and repair shops and grocery stores. There's this whole network of people who are really outsiders, taking care of their own people first. There's a community there of people who are exclusive, insular, and independent. They go to each other for what they need. They are harder to watch and harder to control. They are less dependent on the state and more dependent on each other. And when the collapse comes, they'll take care of each other first, while everyone else is waiting for the state to do something. Whoever your us is, whoever your tribe is, it's just an idea in your head until you have a group of truly interdependent people who share the same fate. That's what a tribe is. That's what a community is. And that's the future, I think, of identity in America. Land belongs to those who take it and hold it. And this land is no longer my land or your land. Officially, it's their land. You may not be able to reclaim it, at least not right now. But you can become and live as happy barbarians, as outsiders within, and work to build the kinds of resilient communities and networks of skilled people that can survive the collapse and preserve your identities after the fall.